everyone, and welcome to Stars with Stasi, where no matter who or what you are on this cosmic journey, you are welcome here. Greetings, I'm Stasi, your trusted psychic and intuitive reader. Today we have a very special guest. I want to introduce Raven Digitalis. How are you, Raven?
Hey, it's great to be here. Yeah, tuning in from beautiful, cold Montana.
Awesome. So
Uh,
I'm going to take a little bit about you for those of us that are getting familiar. Raven is a Leo sun, a Scorpio rising, and a Pisces moon. Raven is an author, a priest, a Freemason, empath, and has a degree in cultural anthropology. With roots in Georgian witchcraft and a journey spanning over 2 decades, Raven has been an earth-based practitioner since 1999. A dedicated priest since 2003, Raven's commitment to spiritual exploration led him to become a Freemason in 2012. In addition to all of his books, which are listed on his website at ravendigitalis.com and his Amazon storefront, Raven co-operated a nonprofit pagan temple for 16 years, is a professional tarot reader, a DJ, card-carrying magician, and passionate advocate for animal rights. Welcome and join me in welcoming Raven Digitalis. Very exciting. How are you? Oh,
thanks for the nice intro. Appreciate it.
thank you. I took some of it off your website, not lying.
Oh, I noticed. That's okay. It's nice and
But
succinct.
I put some zest in it, the Cuban zest.
I
So I
love
did
it.
have a question about this, the nonprofit temple. Are you still working with that?
No, we had to close for interpersonal reasons, financial reasons, because, churches that aren't mainstream can struggle with just maintaining. And it was an amazing 16 years in so many ways, though, and touched the lives of hundreds of folks and amazing experience. But I was also working. Well, for 15 years, I also worked with folks with disabilities as a full-time job until recently, when I moved back to Montana from Hawaii after 3.5 years there. I worked with folks there also, but it was just, and tarot readings and writing books and book tours and the temple work. It was just so much. And I've just started recovering from burnout mode lately. But I wouldn't take it back. It was amazing. Well, it lasted.
Oh, I love it. That is a commitment to the light work for sure.
Mhm.
Now, speaking of books you've authored, we're here to talk about The Everyday Empath. So hopefully everyone gets a chance to read this. I highly, highly recommend this book. I found this book personally through my own healing and transformative journey. I was saying to you earlier that it took me a minute to figure out that this was a gift. And I love the fact that you discussed that in this book. Really, it was pivotal in learning who and what I am and what it was my responsibility really to do with this work and the energy that I have. So I'd like to start off by asking you, what is your definition of an empath, and how did you come to have experiences that led you to the understanding that that's who and what you were?
Well, I didn't know the term. It's a relatively new term. Like even the word empathy itself, it comes from a German word meaning feeling into. I'm not going to try to pronounce the German, but it means feeling into. And even that's like 100, just 110, 20 years old. Just the very word empathy in the English language, and the word empath as being applied to a person seems to have started in a Star Trek episode in the first season of Star Trek in the 70s.
With
Where
Diana Troy, right?
I think so. Is that the actor's name?
Yeah, well, I think that was the
Yeah.
character's name, Diana Troy.
Oh, Diana Troy. She came after
Oh, she
Jem.
came after.
Yeah. So Jem was the first empath character. I'm not even a Star Trek
Me neither.
fan. I just
I'm gonna
watched
get a
it
lot of
for.
hate for that.
I know, me too. I just watched it for research purposes.
Right. In the name
Um,
of science. No,
yeah, in the bathtub with a glass of wine. I'm like,
exactly.
gotta research what empath means or meant in the 70s. And so this character, Gem, I forget which, it was like episode 7 or something, um, was an alien, and she could feel every emotion and everything. And so that's kind of where the term began in as a self-descriptive term. And then that other character you mentioned carried that on. And then in the TV show Charmed, there was an episode called The Primrose Empath. And so it became more identifiable. And then it just kind of grew from there. And then also it grew in the term, well, the term empathy, not so much empath, grew in fields of psychiatry and also biology, because empathy is a biological thing, an evolutionary thing, because when we empathize with each other as a species, just like other animals, we can progress as a whole together. So empathy is evolution, and we have what are termed mirror neurons in the brain, where we mirror each other, which aren't constantly happening, or else we would just dissolve into each other. But
that's a whole nother oneness.
yeah, couldn't function that well that way.
No.
So we have our egos for a reason, and the self-identities and individualities, but it's all about finding a balance. But in metaphysical terms, an empath is an emotional psychic is the best definition I can give for it. So I'm going to write about this in a future book more, but I do in my empath trilogy already a little bit. There's empathy, and then the way I see it anyway, there's empathy, and then there's psychicism, and then there's mediumship. So these 3 different scales. And so, like, for me, I'm very empathic, and so I am a crap medium. It's very rare that I interact with spirits, but it happens sometimes. And then I'm an okay psychic, not that great, and I'm like way more empathic up here. But others, like you, Stasi, like you kind of have a balance between all 3. So you're probably not like hyper in any direction, but you can work with and balance and play with all 3. And some people can do that, and then others are like completely psychically blasted open and have trouble like relating to anybody because their empathy is so low. So, but that's a baseline. We've all got baselines, and those shift and change throughout life, and they can also shift throughout the day depending on what happens.
Right. And I also think, like, depending on how open you are to the energies, you're definitely going to ride that wave. For me, the book absolutely helped me navigate the balance. I didn't come balanced. It wasn't like that at all, and that's why I've really encouraged everyone to take some time, because okay, psychically speaking, the way I intuit what's going to be happening in the next year or two is, as we ascend as a collective, there's a division. I feel that if we don't have the tools in place to mask when necessary, because that's how I see it, almost like a masking or some type of shielding, depending on what you're comfortable calling it. Without those tools, you do end up bleeding all over those who didn't cut you. You end up attracting energies instead of being strong enough to understand that there's a purpose in transmuting the energy, working with it, understanding, I guess, the job as a light worker, so to speak, right? So, did you yourself have any experiences that led you to that place of something doesn't feel right? This is overwhelming. It's too much.
Oh yeah. In high school, I had a handful of spiritual elders in the New Age community and Wiccan and witchcraft communities. So just had a few elders here and there who were advisors, and one priestess I had begun training under. But it was my junior year, and I was wearing my pentagram necklace like I often did, and walking around. And I talk about this story, actually. I think it's the first anecdote in my esoteric empathy book, which we can talk about later. But I was walking around just going through a normal school day, and suddenly I was just overwhelmed and just in this awful suicidal mood, and I didn't know where it was coming from. And I just took off halfway through the school day and walked down to one of my elders' homes. And she's like, well, you're wearing the pentagram outside of your shirt. And then when everybody sees that, they unconsciously, subconsciously project or dump onto there.
Yes.
And you're not protected. And you're obviously an empath. I'm like, what's that? So she described what that was. I'm like, oh, yeah, that makes all the sense in the world. But
so in the beginning stages, right? So you were young, you were vulnerable, you were having these experiences on top of already the natural occurring experiences of that age group, right?
right.
What were the easiest things to grab to for you that helped ground you?
Weed.
No,
Really
we will do it. 100% in plant medicine works. Okay. Fungus
right.
works. It works.
Yeah. But
I love your honesty.
So, yeah, not anymore. I can't smoke these days for some reason. As physiology changes, psychology changes.
The ascension process is real.
Yeah. And really time in nature helped, and just taking some solitary time, but not too excessively, because then that can give rise to isolation and depression even more. So it, like everything, like especially in this book, I'm just banging on and on about balance. It's all balancing act. So, taking the solitary time is hugely important for empaths and psychics and sensitives of all varieties.
Exactly that. It is a beautiful spectrum, right? In my opinion, it's just this spectrum of minds and lenses and perceptions in which to see the world. So one of the things that I've noticed is when you want to see changes in the world, if you change the way that you see yourself, you're definitely going to see differences outside of you. So I always try to tell people that it's so easy to see the movie that plays outside of you and to forget that you yourself are the projector, right? That you are the one that's actually having the script play out in front of you, and it's up to you to extract lessons from it. So the gift of empathy and being to alchemize energies that that are within your field, right? Within your scope of vision, I think is intense. It's such a gift. And it's really just you healing a portion of yourself that you're seeing outside of yourself. So you speak in chapter 2.
Words of wisdom right there. I resonate with that a lot. Yeah.
It comes from.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that is how I see myself. And I think that's how I try to impress onto people, if you can just recognize that it doesn't show up for you unless it is you. Period. So, and thank you for saying that. But in chapter 2, I believe it was, the quote came through is, our job is not merely to absorb energies, but also to act as catalysts for emotional transformation. I love that. And when I read that, the image that comes to my mind's eye is temperance, the card of healing, the alchemy, right? And I always think that's what number 14, reducing to 5, a number of change, adaptability, the flow. And I always see change, like the 5, you have to go through that disruption to get to the harmony of 6. So what are your thoughts on the process of energetic alchemy, and how do you visualize that?
Yeah, it's neat that you say, you mentioned temperance, because when I do my tarot readings, and by the way, I'm available anybody for bookings also.
Whoop, whoop.
Yay. Do that regularly. I've been doing that for I've done that for
And you
18.
do you still focus on the Thoth Tarot?
Yeah, that's right, on the Thoth Tarot.
That is something I want to conquer one of these days. It is an overwhelming deck to learn.
It is.
Oh, yeah. But I'm ready.
It's heavy, it's Kabbalistic, it's astrological, alchemical. But it's funny that you mentioned temperance, because in the Thoth deck, that card is called art, and
Oh,
ruled by Sagittarius, and it's a card that is the most blatant alchemical card because it has a half man, half woman figure combining fire and ice into a cauldron and different alchemical symbolisms around it. So that's exactly what it is. That connects with what you mentioned about empaths being emotional alchemists. And that's a great book, by the way. There's a book called Emotional Alchemy. That one helped me when I was younger a lot. It's more of a Buddhist take. I love Buddhist philosophy.
Me too.
But yeah, we have these energies come into us, and that's the thing about empathy, we absorb the energy. We don't. Okay, sympathizing is like, oh, that's too bad. I feel for you. So that's feeling for someone, which is great to sympathize. But empathizing is feeling as someone or something. So it's like stepping into that emotion, and sometimes you don't even know the source of it, or we don't know until later. And this is a constant thing for people that are highly empathetic, is that we have to constantly transmute these energies and transform them and just keep ourselves in check constantly and be very realistic. And so one way that I suggest working with that is, like, especially in public or even surfing, interacting on social media or something, we can feel energy come into the left side of our body and then exit the right side, and we can just shift that real quick. Just whoosh, instantly switch that energy. If it doesn't feel good, we can switch it into something more positive and have a more positive response and reaction. So that's a really good visualization to do to kind of maintain equilibrium. And like I said, sometimes we just don't know where it's coming from. And the thing about empathy is that it's strictly emotional. There are some woo-woo places that say there's crystal empath, unicorn empath, rainbow empath, all these different types of empath, but there's only one empath, and that's an emotional empath. But we can have proclivities toward different things and be vibrationally aligned to many different things, and callings and frequencies and identities. But empathy is strictly emotional. It's 100% emotional. And then one thing that I love about the work of Carla McLaren, who writes about empathy in a physiological sense, she says that true empathy requires a compassionate response. So it's not enough to just absorb it and take it on and then become this sponge, but which happens if it's uncontrolled. True. But to really activate that empathy, we have to have a compassionate response. And first, we have to have a compassionate response to ourselves.
That's exactly right.
Appreciate ourselves, respect ourselves, forgive ourselves for whatever, and just move on with the flow of life, because everything's in constant change and flux, and just have a compassionate response, which doesn't mean not having boundaries. That's the whole thing.
That's exactly right. That's where the work comes in, I think. Right. So I think there's something to having to sit in it, right? Instead of trying to get through it, to identify where and what you're feeling, which is so painful, especially the more sensitive you are, or if you're working with deity, if you are a person where it suddenly came to you, that period of gnosis, you had a near-death experience, you were contacted by someone on the other side and it changed the trajectory of your life. When it happens like that, and you are real time living this empathy life, or the life of an empath, I should say, I would say one of the very first things that was meaningful to me was, besides meditation and all that, I'm talking when you're in that panic state, just sit with it. What is happening? What is mine? What isn't? And understand that the only responsibility you have isn't to go out and fix everyone and everything, because I think for many of us that happens, right? This responsibility, right? But I think that understanding mostly for me that what changed the way I saw it as I was learning to sit with it was what you bring up, which is learning the importance of living with the rhythm of the universe. So the energies of the planets, the lunar energies you talk about. I know that my life became a lot easier to manage when I surrendered to that power that was so much greater than me, right? The universe. And one of the things, and you probably write about this in the esoteric book, but as within, so without. So I had to accept that if the energies outside of me were so forceful, that meant on some level that the energy within me was just as forceful, and that I was just as strong, right? And that I was just as much of, like, I deserved this space as much as anyone else did, and that I should shine my light just as brightly as anyone else. And yeah, that's a real hard, I think, thing to feel and come to grasp with when you're an empath, because you feel the heaviness of everyone else. Does
Right,
that
and
make sense?
we can lose our self-identity that way if it's
Exactly that.
uncontrolled. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then end up identifying with everyone else or any feelings or opinions that come our way. And that's why if someone's highly empathetic, they can be, they're the prime pickings for a cult or for
Exactly.
narcissists or abusers.
I talk about that a lot. Narcissism, you have a lot of empaths that will say, I attract narcissists. And I felt that way. And then one day it hit me, well, I'm unhealed at that point if I'm attracting it. Now, if I'm transmuting it, if I'm learning from it, if I am accepting it, that's a whole nother situation, right? And I think that there's a lot of power that comes in learning that this is a gift, because most people can't get out of it to save their lives. But when you understand your worth, your power, and that it's just someone else projecting onto you, yes, deeply, it's a portion of you that needs to be healed, but it's your experience that's real in that moment. So, I think that as you heal up and you are able to work with energy, those experiences become more transformative, and they become more a catalyst to your betterment versus this victim mentality that an unhealed empath will take on,
Right. Yeah, and it's easy to feel like things are too intense and that then we go into victim consciousness mode, and then everything sucks and life is depressing, and it's like that is a choice though. It
It
really
is.
is.
It is,
So
but it's hard to accept that for a minute. It really, it's just,
yeah,
it's
we can have challenges and not be perpetual victims.
exactly, and there is something there to be said about that healing journey, thanking all parts of yourself, the parts that the shadow parts. I know, and we're going to talk about that because I know that you have an oracle deck coming out, right? That works on that. I'm very excited for that. Um, so I just feel that part of healing up as an empath, and tell me what your thoughts are, is about sitting with your shadows and understanding all aspects of yourself, because I think that's where you get the compassion from.
Yeah, I'm doing a class tonight for excuse my throat.
It's the
Which
throat chakra. They're coming through.
I guess so.
Oh yeah, that happens here at Stars with Stasi.
I have a class tonight for WitchCon International, which is through Salem, Massachusetts, but there are like 100 different presenters. And the class I'm doing is called Empathy and Shadow Magic. And so that's kind of what you're saying is
How perfect
we
is
have
that?
to do the shadow work, right?
Yeah, because you have to see both. I'm seeing the Chariot card in my mind, right? You have to know both sides to walk the middle line, right? You have to.
Yeah. Yeah. Chariot card, Cancer, the crab. Yep. And protective, you know.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. And that it just takes being honest with ourselves and self-aware and being honest with others, if it's safe. Yeah. And so much of empathic shadow work is about that honesty and digging into our authentic selves, acknowledging our traumas, doing the work that it takes, even if it's hard, to get through traumatic imprints and come to a more full place of healing. It's just a process, you know,
It
and
is.
then we can help others better that way because
Yeah,
we're natural healers.
I agree. I think that one of the things that I've noticed a lot as I talk with others openly about this experience and what they've gone through is, again, just this need to want to be everything to everyone, because especially for those that are, like I said, suddenly plunged into it, and everything, like the clairs are waking up all at once. There's this ethical portion of this experience that has people like either wanting to isolate to a point that's just unhealthy, or they overexhaust because they overextend. So when you talked about boundaries and building them, and you talked about let me see, one of the things, boundaries was, oh, and being gullible, like being susceptible, because that's the other thing, you intuit, but you also, we tend to be very optimistic people until we're rattled in the wrong way, I guess. You know, we want to see the best in everyone. I don't know if that's all empaths, but I really feel that with the ones that I attract, you know, and we get very excited, and it's tough. We forget that not everybody, first of all, I didn't even know that others were not like this. It took me, that was a rude awakening.
I empathize. Yeah.
I had no idea. I would get so offended. Like, how can you not know what I'm thinking?
Yeah. I know that was a hard awakening for me too, and for a lot of highly empathic people I know, just feeling like everyone is the same as we are, and then becoming disillusioned when we get hurt. And um, I've even drugged that out with some folks in my life, where in the past, where I just refuse to believe that anyone can be malicious and actually it's totally self-serving. I'm like, really? What? Why?
Why?
That
Right.
makes
Why
no
would you
sense.
choose that? That's so
It,
low
it's
vibing.
just, it's low vibing, greedy. It's an alien concept. I'm just like, not in the nice alien way,
No
but
offense to
just,
aliens out there everywhere.
yeah. And
No
I'm
offense
just
to
like,
aliens.
yeah. Mhm. And it's just like with it's the same kind of thing as greed consciousness and the insatiable greed of um, so many folks in power and billionaires and political leaders. You know, not every single one, but many. It's very um, perplexing. I'm like, really? Okay, well, I guess now that I've been hurt, I can be aware that not everyone's as nice and real as I am. I'm sure that's what you've been through, and many of us have. You know.
So here's a little food for thought, little question for you, because as I try to, yeah, I feel like, especially as a Scorpio, right? Because it's funny, I'm a Scorpio sun, but a Leo rising. So we
Oh,
have,
hey, we're
yeah, we have
switched.
the energetic footprint that we have is nice and balanced.
Nice.
Um, but I lost myself in the excitement of what I was going to say, which happens, you know, it's
Like, yeah, Leo Scorpio power.
yeah, I got all excited, like ball of yarn. There it goes.
It is quite the combo.
Um, but yeah, so we're gonna have to just, I lost it completely. It's not meant to continue. I lost what I was gonna say when I got so excited about the Leo combo.
I did that in an interview last night too. That was on video. I'm like, and the most powerful, important thing to say is, "Oh yeah, just here's some distraction."
There
I
it goes.
totally
Goddess
forgot.
had something
It's
different.
gone.
It will come back. It will come back. Um,
But yeah,
so
that gullibility. Yeah, that's a big thing.
but gullibility is real. Because you just want to believe that people are going to do and say the right thing, or that they want to, or when they know better, they do better, which was the philosophical question. Here we go. So, what do you think about the idea that people who exist in the lower vibration are essential light workers as well? Because but for their existence, we could not appreciate what it is to live in the light, which takes me back to that chariot vibe, right? Like, you want to maintain neutrality to the best of your ability on this, you know, as you, you know, go forward. But you know, I wonder about that. Like, is that a type of light work, the shadows, right? Do they bring up in us as you know, energetic beings in a corporeal form? Do these experiences bring up for us the contemplation needed to ascend?
That's a great question. Or, you know, point of contemplation, really. Because yeah, I think I have mixed feelings about that, because there are unimaginable horrors in the world, and have always been, um, that don't seem to serve much of a purpose that I can tell. And I've a lot of trouble just trying to understand the most horrific things, and trying to find justification for that, even karmically. So that's something that I struggle with, and I like, and that I'm putting out there to learn more about as time goes on, because I just can't find justifications for the most horrible things. And but so I think, related on a smaller scale, we do need those challenges, and need to survive those challenges to become more full, better light workers, better um, helpers to ourselves and others, healers, whatever. And they can help define us, if we're realistic about them, and about our shortcomings, and that, and you know, the fact that others are going through their own shortcomings as well, and we can cultivate empathy that way and use that as a springboard, sure. But I'm kind of at that point where I just cannot surround myself, or just share space or time or arguments with folks who are going to be disrespectful. They can be challenging. That's great if it's comes from a good place,
Right.
and you know, and have different viewpoints than me or whatever. That's great. But when it is disrespectful, and it's clearly there's no empathy there, that I've learned that doesn't help me anymore. Maybe it did a little bit at one point.
To
But
get
you
to
know,
this point, maybe that was the
yeah,
catalyst to build the boundary, you know? So maybe
I think
it's
you're
not
right. Yeah.
that they serve you forever, right? But maybe these I don't know, I guess the negative vibrations that show up in our individual lives, right? I think we all attract different things depending on our purpose here, our lessons, right? And so what might be the most horrific thing you've ever seen might have not ever even come up in my simulation, my programming. I might have never seen it. But you know, there's going to be a lesson for something with you versus what I see in my own existence. So I often think about that because it does help me cultivate compassion, honestly, and it helps me have respect more than anything for my shadow sides, is the best way I can put it. Because you can be compassionate all day long for yourself, but if that's not coupled with respect for how far you've come, respect for the work you've done, respect for the hardships of the ugliest parts within you, if you don't have the respect, I think that you're lacking in the experience of the the evolution of you, you know, and I think that then you also might miss the mark in respecting others when you don't understand them. And I think that's what leads to the judgment, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's a good point. Kind of reminds me of the Instagram kitty cat videos I've been seeing, where the cat is captioned saying, "Look how far you've come. I'm so proud of you. You're a survivor. You survived all these days up through now, and you're gonna keep on persevering. Meow meow. I'm so proud of you." And it was like, yes, go cat wisdom. But it's true. We need to be gentle on ourselves, because we can, especially for highly sensitive people and empaths, we can really be harsh on ourselves,
Yeah.
and
What is
not
that about? Why are we so mean to us and we would never do it to anyone else?
right.
Ever,
Yeah,
ever.
right.
I would never talk to
Not weird.
somebody the way I used to talk to myself. I don't do that anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah. I personally, like I said, there's a respect that I try to build for the darkest parts of me so that and maybe a little bit, it's so I don't keep telling myself off, you know? I'm like, okay, let me respect that part of me so I stop being so nasty to it.
Right.
And it seems to work a little bit. Sometimes.
Well,
All
yeah,
right.
and that's the whole thing, catching ourselves in that awareness, having that having the awareness to catch ourselves. We when our minds are doing certain things. And that's one thing also that I talk about in all my empathy, in the empathy trilogy, is that we need to catch ourselves just
Yes.
when these when negativity arises in our mind, we need to catch ourselves. So empaths, very strong empaths, live from the heart and intuition, or from feeling.
Yeah.
So I should say strong empaths live through feeling, and strong psychics live through the mind. It's cerebral. So that's the difference, the mind and the heart. And finding the balance between the mind and the heart aids in our healing processes. And if we're living from one or the other too much, then the other is out of balance.
It does. You can either be stuck in your head too long and then not follow your intuition. I feel like sometimes that will happen, which for empaths, once we really get us like in the rhythm of it, as you were talking about, like in the rhythm of the forces outside of you, right? The planetary rhythms also. I think learning how to ride those waves gives you such confidence because you stop fighting it, you know? I mean, I'm going to use a personal example. I mean, I hate to call like attention to this exactly, but it is what it is. So as I was going through all these transitions last year, you know, I was looking through my astrology and it said I was going to gain weight. And I was like, the hell I am. There is 0% chance because I see it. So I'm going to avoid it. I'm not going to gain weight. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I was all over it. No, it's not what happened. I certainly did gain the weight. And then instead of getting angry about it, I was like, okay, all right. Even though I knew this was going to happen, I didn't know how it was going to manifest. And it manifested from something I could not have foreseen, psychic and all, right? It was just a hormonal situation that I could not have prepared for. And it was a freak thing. And I'm like, all right, fine. And then sure enough, I checked the astrology and Venus is in Aquarius. This is a great time to get your body in check. This is a great time to, you know, so I'm going to choose to ride that wave. And in my meditations, I used that knowledge. I asked aloud, which is very important in my opinion, to speak aloud your desires. You know, the voice carries frequency, those frequencies carry energy, and I think that's why there are oral traditions, right? So using that information, I was just like, okay, guys, can we, you know, help me out here? Can we just get me desiring the right kind of foods to fix my health? And literally, I found myself that afternoon without thinking, cleaning out cupboards and all this stuff. I like went to the grocery store, and next thing you know, my entire path of like what I was craving and what I was eating changed overnight. So I just
Wow.
feel that there's a lot to what you say and understanding the energies around you and working with it. Have you found
Right.
that to be true
Oh
recently?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's adaptability. We need to adapt, and we're hardwired to adapt.
Temperance
As,
energy, adaptability.
yeah, temperance energy for sure. Yeah,
I love that.
yeah,
Um, let me see. So I want to talk about your Oracle deck because I love this deck.
yeah.
Yeah. So let's see. I just want to remind everyone that this is the Empath's Oracle deck. Get it. I love it. And I'm going to be using it a lot more on this channel now because we are
Great,
going to talk
great.
about it today. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to pull a card to set the stage. I'm going to ask a question, I'm going to pull a card, and I want you to interpret it for us and see how it goes. All right. So angels, ancestors, spirit guides, and interdimensional beings. Hey, that's too many. Overseeing this act of divination. Hail and welcome. All right. As empaths, as we move forward this leap year, this year of abundance and success, as we work with the energies to be on our highest and best timeline, what can we work on, please? Thank
What do
you,
we got?
Spirit. Here we have number 30. I love this for us. Number 30, engaging with fears and doubts as we speak about our shadow sides, right? So I'm going to hold this
Yeah,
up. So I'd like you to interpret this for us, and then we'll definitely get into the artwork of it all and everything there.
Yeah. So you showed the booklet that comes with the cards,
Yes,
engaging fears and doubt, and I have my copy here also.
I love it.
Um, so let me consult myself and instead of totally interpreting
So we will go to
the
page, for
card.
those of you at home following along, if you have this deck, right? This is going to be number 30, page 155. And intuitively, I get a lot of hits from this card, just from which this is another thing that I love about this deck. Guys, it's very intuitive. I would say that. And the artwork on here, and like I said, we are going to get into it, but the artwork on here says a lot, but the book is amazing. But intuitively, this really speaks to what we were just playing with, the idea of.
Yeah, it is. It sure
It's
does. Yeah, the essential themes, the 3 bullet points for this card are accepting that fear and anxiety can aid in self-development. Hey, we were just talking about that. Questioning any thought or belief that may be self-limiting, and remembering that we're never truly alone.
exactly
Those are
that.
the main themes of that card. And so a lot about that particular card is dealing with depression and self-isolation. It is excuse me, also the winter time, so it is a more internal and introspective time of year right now, and it's natural that those kinds of things come up a little bit more at this time of year for in the depending on the climate or hemisphere. But yeah, engaging with fears and doubts, it's all about taking a step back and helping um, our minds and emotions come into balance, realistically looking at what we're feeling and being like, okay, what's the origin? Do I have to believe my mind right now? Is my mind playing tricks? Are my feelings playing tricks? Am I exaggerating something? Or is this negativity really not as heavy as it seems? And taking a step back to see, why am I fearful about this? Why do I have anxiety about XYZ? Why am I feeling this bit of depression? And then a big tool that empaths can do is rewind the mind and look backwards and
Yes,
think back, like, where could this have come from?
right. The roots of it all.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, it just comes back to being honest with ourselves and gentle on ourselves, like we talked about earlier.
So intuitively, if I don't open the book and I just hold this card and I think about what this means in relation to what I'm asking, right? I get so much from it. I really do. So I'm asking spirit how we can engage this energy, right, of this leap year, because I personally believe this is an amazing portal of energy for us to get into our highest vibration when we talk about our relationships with others and ourselves and how we commune with spirit. And I feel strongly that in this year, the way to do that is to work with this energy here. When it says engaging with fears and doubts, we have to face our shadow side. And I think that's the timely for when your new work is coming out. Also, I think it's really important to understand that those vibrations exist in order to catapult you into your highest and best. It really does. You can't appreciate one without the other. Number 3 is a number of creation and self-expression. And I think this is your path to your highest and best, honestly, because 3 is also the Empress energy, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's all about alchemizing and transmuting there as well. She's nature's great recycler of energy. And this is that same thing right here, in my opinion. This is, when you engage with the dark parts of yourself, you're no longer afraid of them. You start to love it. Ram Dass, right? Love all parts of yourself. Oh,
Right.
exactly
Exactly.
right. That got me. Just that philosophy alone. I was like, man, that's true, because it's not anyone else's job to do it.
Right.
So then who's going to do it, right? If you don't learn to love all parts of you and you don't share all parts of you with yourself anyway, then really what you're doing is you're living this life of self-loathing in this corner alone, where nobody knows those secrets that you hate about yourself anyway. You're just in there ruminating, and then you bring about what you think about, because it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? You just end up seeing more of it.
And then that can lead to constantly seeking validation from others.
Oh, that's so true.
Like,
I think that was probably my biggest hurdle in socializing, in socializing, navigating, and still, like, honestly, still, because you are trying to get away from that, like, imposter syndrome that happens as you start to step into all of it. And
sure.
there is a lot of that record that plays. So
Right.
how do you find yourself handling that loop, especially when you pick up energies from everybody else?
I've learned to take more personal time, solitary time with just me and
Yes.
my kitty cat, and or at my altars or whatnot. And then again, time in nature, just little bits here and there. Another thing that is kind of along those lines is that empaths are naturally attuned to the water element, and the water element, and in Wicca and Hermeticism, that direction of the West, water and the West, the downgoing of the sun direction, are also attuned to shadow work. And empathic healing and shadow work go hand in hand. So we're naturally oriented toward water and Western energy. So when we need the cleansing, if someone's having an empathic overload, shower, bath,
Yes.
dip in the ocean if you can. Even like right now, I could go outside, like, and I've done this just now and then throughout the last few weeks, just go outside, grab a handful of snow, and just,
Oh, that's a great idea. With
yeah,
the snow. Yes.
right.
I mean, because I'll do it with an ice cube. I'll do it just to get my senses back, like to ground myself immediately, but to do it with fresh snow, or
Yeah, yeah, it's
that's,
totally
yeah.
pure and fresh. Yeah, so yeah, even just washing the face, or drinking clear water, and like Sherilyn said, yeah, water immersion works. It's helpful. It's what we're naturally attuned to. And actually, that, come to think of it, that's a card. Both in my empath's oracle, there's a card I'm pretty sure about, the healing of water, and then also in my forthcoming oracle deck, which comes out in October of this year, called a Gothic Witches
I
Oracle.
saw that
Very,
too.
very niche, very dark, but it's light in a dark skin, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
It back to the alchemical kind of stuff. It's beautiful, and I collaborated with an artist that I've loved since I was a teenage gothling, from New York, on that deck with his photographic art. And with the Empath's Oracle, it's with an artist who became a new friend of mine, Konstantin Bax, in Berlin, Germany. It's all acrylic and hand painted. Neither of my decks have digital artwork in them.
I love it.
Super honored. But even in that forthcoming deck, I have a card that's all about water energy. So
As a water sign, we're into it. Most
yeah,
of the members
yeah.
are Scorpios, so we're very into our water energy.
Okay. Yeah, and I have a Pisces moon too, and then the Scorpio rising. So I got the water going on with that spicy Leo in front. So I'm all steam. But what's your
So I'm a
ascendant?
Scorpio sun, Leo rising, and a Libra moon.
Libra moon. Okay, nice.
I like it fair. I like it just.
Yeah, that's a nice balance.
Thank you. Thank you. I worked it out myself before I got here.
Right. That's what they say.
It's
Yeah.
true.
Right.
The shit show of it all, I actually created. Yay me. I don't know if I created it or if I just picked this script. I don't know, but here we go.
Oh, you're doing it beautifully.
Oh, you're so sweet. So when you were, so I want to talk about this because I heard you talk about this before. So when you were creating this deck, I want to talk about your experiences that led you to pick this type of artwork, and tell me a little bit about how you came to find the artist and the cards on here, like the artwork. I love it. Like, look at that. That's gorgeous. Honestly, that's beautiful.
And
What does this
and
activating empathic magic? Oh, she spoke to me. Number 29,
yeah,
reducing to 11. Look at that.
now can you see the hidden face in that card, the outline? It took
Yes.
me, I didn't see that at
Oh, with
first.
the woman's face right here.
No, there's
There's
another face
okay.
to the
Hold please.
left.
To the left. Oh, wait, the
Isn't
two,
that,
because there's a face here, there's the face here.
and then right where your finger's pointing, there's an outline in white, and a white outline of a face. That's the secret spirit helper in the card.
Oh my goodness. So right there.
Yeah. And I didn't notice that for months after even seeing the picture.
It's like life, right? It can be right in front of you, and it's only when you need to see it. Only when
Right.
you need to see it.
It's trippy like that.
What's the
And
beauty of it? If you saw it all at once, oh shit, that would be awful.
mhm. Yeah, but each of these paintings, they're all acrylic. It's just brilliant artwork. It is so deep. And I'm glad the cards are like 4x5 or whatever they are.
Yeah, they're nice. They're a good
Yeah.
size.
And
I
that's
like
going to
that.
be the same size as my Gothic Witches Oracle too, which is nice because those are very vibrant with their photographic artwork. But yeah, I met Constantine, the artist, just from a Google search. I looked up modern psychedelic abstract painters and encountered a list. And then I was like, this is cool. This is cool, cool, cool. Oh my God, this guy's artwork is just holy crap. And so I reached out to him. And the next day, he's like, let's do it. I've always wanted to do cards. And so we just became friends and made it happen. And then Llewellyn, the publisher, was like, oh, hell yeah, we're doing this. And it's made it
I
happen.
love that.
But my Gothic, yeah, it was so serendipitous, just so aligned, synchronized, meant to be. But with my Gothic Witches Oracle, that actually got rejected by 2 or 3 publishers because it's so dark, the imagery.
Oh,
It's
now I have to,
so
I need them.
too edgy. But Crossed Crow books, crossed as in crossroads and crow as in the bird, Crossed Crow books, who published my re-edition, expanded, revised of which is Shadow Magic Compendium, which is the second favorite book I've written next to Esoteric Empathy. They're the ones that are taking on the Oracle deck. And now they're being distributed by Red Wheel Wiser for those. So now stores can order those much more easily. But they even decided, they're like, not only will we publish this potentially controversial and scary photographic artwork, but we'll also free the nipple. And so there's actually women's breasts in some of the cards.
Free the nipple. No. I love it.
And it's just like, even the artist,
I won't be able to use them on YouTube, but I will find a platform.
There's only about 8 or 9 that contain nudity out of the 40. But you can use others of them, yeah. Or you can just put stickers on top of the boobies. Like
they just chimed in on the chat box. They have like personal readings. I should, you know what? It'll be an add-on for the nude cards. It's $10. No, $10 extra.
Yeah, but they're all very tactful. It's like, oh, what are people's hangups are so weird. but so this publisher's brave. They're like, yeah, fuck it, we'll just publish it.
So is this going to be like a shadow work trilogy where you had done an
That's exactly right. Yep. It completes my shadow trilogy, just like the Empath's Oracle completed my Empath's trilogy. Yeah.
Now, are you planning, because one of the things I enjoy as a neurodivergent woman is I love having the books in front of me, the hard copy, but I have to be able to hear it. So I love that the Empath Oracle or the Empath, the Everyday Empath is on audio. So I listen, because I listen to it quite often. Are there any plans to do any of your other books that way?
It's not up to me.
Okay.
Yeah, it's up to the publishers. So it's considered a translation. So I've had a number of different translations, but yeah, Everyday Empath is translated into Spanish and audiobook. And so, I get one little chunk royalties from each translation, and then they just go off and do their thing, basically.
Got it.
But that's my only audiobook that I have out. Yeah.
I love audiobooks because it's just an easier way for me to intake information because I'm everywhere all at once. It's not the best course, but it's how I work now. And I really find it to be a good way. So maybe with Pluto and Aquarius, the technology might bring us all the things that we need, and hopefully it gets translated that way quickly because I love it. Let's see. Oh, yeah, we have people chiming in. They love audiobooks too.
Yeah, I've been
So
getting really good feedback on the audiobook.
I love audio.
I think the guy that reads it is a bit monotone. I know he's an old Hollywood actor. I don't remember his name. But I've only heard like a couple little clips from it from online. But I've gotten good feedback about it. They're like, nah, he's not monotone the whole time. He gets into it. I'm like, okay, cool.
I think that with the technology that exists, you could clone your voice and have it read the book for you. I mean, well, I know you can, and that's something that we can talk about a different time when I do your reading.
That'd be interesting.
Well, because that already came to me. I did get a bit of a business download for you earlier. So
okay, sweet, great.
yeah. I had before I was really understanding that you had done a shadow trilogy. I was like, he should do a shadow trilogy. I wonder if he has shadow cards. And then I went on your website and I was like, oh wow, there they are. Like, excellent.
Yeah, we've been having those little vibe clicks lately. I love it.
It is awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So I want to talk a little bit about how you would see this for someone, because I have this idea where some people will do like a daily meditation, or they will do their what's it called in Christianity, a devotion, a daily devotion, right? People do. So how would you suggest that someone could use this deck along with the exercises in your book? Like, what would be a good, I don't know, a little prescription for the empath to kind of put your products into action?
Um, some folks like doing a daily pull from the Empath's Oracle, and others like me I like doing a monthly pull from the deck. So I've not pulled very many cards from my own deck. But others, it just depends on the person and how they relate. Because, even though I co-created that deck, it's its own entity. Like, just like any pack of cards or work of art, it becomes its own entity and you don't really own it anymore.
Literally the process of alchemy, right? Ideas
Yeah.
flowing into something that is no longer you.
And that's similar to the Lover's card in the 12th Tarot, which is directly related to the art card, aka Temperance. So the Lover's card in the 12th Tarot, it has two figures, and they're creating a third. They're creating a project or an entity or a being or something springing into existence, like through co-creation. And that's how I see the artistic process and putting things out there in the world. But with those two books combined, I'm a big fan of bibliomancy, which takes many different forms. So biblio meaning book, and then mancy meaning divination. So it's like, okay, bibliomancy, which information will serve me today? I'm just gonna close my eyes, show me there. And so open my eyes, and it says, within India's ancient spiritual traditions, such as Hinduism, Sikhism, Jainism, and Buddhism, we find special emphasis on the concept of seva, S-E-V-A. This Sanskrit word refers to selfless service without expectation of return or reward. The act of seva is an empath's most powerful offering to the world. So, yeah.
Beautiful.
Forgot I wrote about that. Yeah, seva is selfless service. So that's bibliomancy. That's one thing you can do with that book in combination with pulling a card or whatever. Just get a sentence of wisdom for the day. And I've got a stack of books I do that with, including Ram Dass's texts, and it's a good way to utilize it.
I agree. I love that. I did not know that there was a name for that. My mother, right? She's one of my spirit guides. She's crossed. She's ever present in my life, like right here, literally, as we do this. She's reminding me that you know, we're Cuban, and so, you know, we used to just she would grab a Bible and be like, Mija, come here. And she would just and she'd be like, this is
Oh,
the answer. And then she would just read it to me. And I was always confused by that because, you know, she would be picking up a Bible and I'd look around and I'm like, this doesn't look like a Bible household. Like there was no altars and everything. And she would just be like, it's just the way it is, you know, and in Spanglish, I would get like a lesson that I just didn't want to hear, but that I still to this day, I've got my Bible back there, and that's the only time it comes out. I'm like, all right, what?
great.
And then I sure enough, you know, and I'll do that with the witch's Bible too sometimes, like
Oh,
just to get,
yes.
you know, an idea of like maybe what I need to focus on because the information's overwhelming. And quite frankly, my brain doesn't work that way anymore. I don't have the input for it or the output.
Mhm.
I can't absorb all the energy at once. So I like that method actually. It's just what you need to know right now. It's like a spiritual short instead of a YouTube short.
So true. Yeah, it really is, huh?
I love that. All right. Well, so we are approaching this 3 o'clock mark, and I want to make sure to get questions from everyone. But I do want to, before we get there, let me just see a spiritual short. Yeah, I
Mm.
come up with some good things. So some questions that we received from the audience that I got ahead of time is in the beginning of the book, you say, we need empathy now more than ever. Yet your book was published before the pandemic. Could you feel something coming?
Um, I was feeling a big shift coming in my personal life, and that was actually right before it got published, right before uh, the former temple that I co-operated got had to dissolve, and then I moved to Hawaii, so that massive shift in my life. So I could feel that coming, but I didn't know it would be tied to something global. It's funny because I moved to Hawaii and then a week and a half later, lockdown, boom. Like, wow, if I had waited 2 weeks, I wouldn't have been able to get into the island.
And
Because
that was
every
when you moved from Montana to Hawaii.
Mhm.
And so how did that affect besides the clear being physically somewhere else? Did you go from living with family to living alone? Or was it like, how did that impact your surroundings? Like, where was the universe trying to direct you so much that, like, literally that timing is amazing?
Yeah, I went from living with community members within the temple structure
Mhm.
to living with strangers who have become friends.
Wow. So it was
But
just
there
the
were
universe
many,
trying to get you to focus on something completely different about yourself.
yeah, just a total change. Yeah, it was a bit
Time
traumatic,
changer. Yeah.
but you know, like you said, we have to use those challenging experiences for benefit and alchemize them to become more whole, aware healers.
Love that. All right. So I like this one too. Here we go. I actually was asked this by people not even on this channel. So, is Raven Digitalis your real name? If not, how did you come up with your name? What is the significance for you?
Well, Raven Digitalis is my real name. It is because I use it. It's my magical name. But Colin Smith is also my real name. uh, so yeah, I'm Colin with one L, and um, then publicly I'm Raven. And I mentioned my spiritual elders earlier. One of my elders named Valan Baldison, she took me on when I was 15 or 16 on um, and she's part Native American, Salish, I think, but and an occultist, metaphysician, and healer. And she took me on a journey to discover spirit helpers and animal guides. And then the Raven was boom prominent and just never left. So I just integrated that into my name, my magical or spiritual name. And then digitalis is the Latin name for the plant foxglove. And so that's where that came from because I had always vibed with the fairy thimble plant, the foxglove flowers. They're so beautiful and they're a little spooky and otherworldly and just gorgeous and just like, the it feels really good. So.
Do you remember the healing qualities of foxglove? Because off the top of my head, it is not hitting me.
Um, anything to do with the fairy realm, so invisibility, subtle magic, liminal space, energy, anything to do with like dawn and dusk, and it's kind of a liminal energy. And
Do you work with the fae?
not as much as I used to. I'm doing more, working more on the emotional kind of realm now, but I'll still leave out offerings and whatnot now and then. But I'm also a little scared of the fae too, I'm gonna admit.
I just expected that they would be around you while you were working on these shadow, like these
probably.
yeah, they're probably like, come with me.
but like I said, I've never been so good at things like mediumship or perceiving the other world. I mean, I've had some extreme experiences with that, but they seem to be like big experiences with the other world energy stuff, or just nothing at all. And then boom, there's a big experience. So they could be around. I don't know. Probably. But yeah.
Have you had an experience that you would be willing to share, that you would say was one that changed the trajectory of your life?
Yeah, so that relates to empathy. One of the, and I do discuss it in esoteric empathy. That's another one of my empathic anecdotes in here. I was on book tour for Shadow Magic Compendium, the original version of this book that was published back in 2008. This is the much better one, and everybody get this one, not the other one. Well, it's out of print.
That everyone get the one about magic.
Yeah, Shadow Magic Compendium.
That one says witches on it, and the other one doesn't, right?
Right. Yeah,
that's exactly right. Okay.
The Witches Shadow Magic Compendium, but the regular Shadow Magic Compendium from 2008 is out of print anyway.
Okay. Oh, right, because you said Llewellyn sold it back to you, right? Or gave it back.
Yeah, gave back the rights. And I was on book tour for that book, the original one. And one of the stops that I made was in Eugene, Oregon. And my tour guide ditched out on me. So I was just walking around after the book signing and author event downtown. And then I went into like this kind of empty area that felt really just vacant and dark. I'm like, I don't know where this is, but I'm gonna go walk back to the little downtown area. And then something just shifted at that point, and I couldn't, it was very subtle, couldn't tell what it was. But then a couple weeks later, I started to feel this presence here, it just warmth, like, or warmth. What is that? Because it kept getting stronger and stronger each day. And so eventually I was just like, this is too much. Like I would do like some water cleansing, throw some salt, some sage, whatever, and it wasn't going away. I'm like, this is just crazy, because I'm like, is this in my head? What's happening? And this is like a month after I got back from book tour, but it was just felt like it was getting closer and closer and almost suffocating. And so I went into meditation and felt it out, and it was clear as day that it was a female ghost spirit that I had picked up in Eugene, Oregon at that very vacant place, and someone that was attracted to my light and started clinging. And she was trying to merge into my body and take over my body. It was like, really? I'm like, that's what's happening. But
right, that's on today's menu. Why? Why? And no one believes this shit. You know, you can't talk to what I like to call a muggle. You know, you can't and be like, yeah, so today
exactly
trying to have literally the point of view from a spiritual person is so unique. It does add to the feelings of isolation, in my opinion, because if you don't surround yourself with other humans that can at least sit with it, like to tell someone, so there was this presence and it tried to overtake me, you'll get a blank stare. They're like, okay,
exactly.
Okay, so 911 is who you want to call.
Yeah.
But yeah, so ultimately, did you end up just sending her back? Did you transmute that energy? Is that something you can do with a force that's an entity?
Luckily I had a coven at that time, and I called upon some help from them, because it was more than I could do on my own. But what it did boil down to is that at the end of the day, I was the one responsible to not be empathetic and be like, yeah, you can merge with my body, succubus or whatever. Just like, come on in, it's comfy in here. I don't need my body anyway. It's like, that's like the empathic inclination to be like, oh yeah, there's room for two. Yeah, if it helps.
Yeah, we can do it.
If it's helpful for you, sure. But no, I had to be the one to take out the athame and burn the dragon's blood and say, and do all the rituals and say, listen, you gotta leave right now. You are not welcome here, and blah, and which is totally out of character for me to do it, but it's self-defense.
Yeah.
And so I had to be like, no, you are getting out of here. And then, do all the symbols and this and that and protect myself and say, I know where you came from. You need to go back and just talk as if somebody's like, as if it's just a regular person. And that's all it took. And then after that, I didn't feel the warm presence anymore. And she had left and went back. I'm like, you go to the light.
Right.
But it's like, I'm not going to tiptoe you to the light either, though. Because,
just get the hell out of my face. Right. Be gone. Right, exactly. So when you were talking about, so here's just a question. When you're talking about, all right, you have an encounter with someone, for example, like I want to make sure everyone understands the difference and that I understand the difference. So let's say I'm out and about minding my business, doing the light work, and just by existing, and I come into contact with a human entity that may be carrying something, who knows, right? But something's off and I can feel it. So I go through the process of, okay, well, let me, I'm responsible as a light worker, as an empath, to take this energy, it's coming towards me, transmute it, change it, get it away, right? But then let's just say that you start that process and you're like, whoa, this is not what I thought it was. This is an energy more than, because I feel like that could happen to someone who's just starting to understand. I feel like it kind of happened to me before. Starting this book, I went to a conference very similar to the one that I'm going to here shortly. And, you feel empowered. Okay, I can do it. If it comes my way, I'm just going to fix it. And so what came my way was not fixable. And I was like, oh shit. So how do you know, or can you stop that process? You feel it coming up your arm and you're like, whoa, what's a good course of action to reverse it? Or are you committed to changing it once it's in you?
I think visualization goes a long way.
Okay.
And magic follows intention and is, magic is the art of causing change in accordance with will, as Aleister Crowley said. And so the imagination links with our emotion, with feeling, and then with intention. So all these levels are interlinked. And I just think visualization just is a conduit of imagination and emotion and feeling and thought. And we can do so much with that, especially shielding.
Yeah, I think it's very important to, I try to tell people, because there's a huge and long path between waking up and understanding you're different to being a degreed magician or a Freemason, right, as you are, or just even having access sometimes. We have a lot of privilege as we sit here in the comfort of our homes, but there are people everywhere ascending, waking up, dealing with things that don't have this luxury. So one of the things I try to tell people is that it is intention and will and desire, and always working from a place of desire over obligation is going to help you manifest every time, because it is coming from here, and it is that energy that you're trying to work with. So if you were talking, because widely we are going to reach a population who this is very new to them, what would you say would be, like, for example, like a really good crystal, right? What would be some things, because you talk about this in your book, to carry around with you? What are some like quick grabs when you're like in the pinch of it?
Well, like today I went for citrine. So citrine and carnelian are really good. I have 3 citrine stones, this one wrapped with copper and then one in each pocket right now, for triangulating the citrinine energy, for confidence, for some of the Leo kind of shiny positive energy, good vibes kind of thing. That and carnelian I'm fans of. The number one go-to empath stone is black tourmaline because it's protective. It really creates an instant barrier. So I only use it sparingly if I'm not feeling 100% and I have to go to the grocery store or something. I'm going to put that on because I'm just like taking on other people's energy. I can't, no can right now. So just putting that on to put up a barrier. Or if I'm feeling a lot of anxiety, that's good so that I can sit with my own stuff and not radio frequency out or absorb others. So black like tourmalines. Yeah. So black tourmaline's really good in that respect. And bloodstone's really good for connecting to kind of our deeper energies and being more our authentic self.
All right, let's see. Oh, this is a good one. Oh, okay. So how can we guide or help our children to learn how to maneuver the overwhelm into transmuting their emotions? So that's a good question, because I guess, with children, you're not going to have this understanding, right? I mean, although sometimes they are way smarter than us, but the words and the language. So to simplify it as much as possible and letting a child know who's having maybe, I always say, like, adults, right? If we could, we would. If it was acceptable for us to have our meltdowns at 40, the same way we did at 3, I swear to you, I would. I'd be like, help, I need time out. So when we're talking about kids, right? Like, how do you explain to them, like, okay, you're overwhelmed. We're going to take this energy that you have and we're going to calm down, stop crying, turn it into something good. Like, what's a good way to maybe express something like
there's a great board game that my friend Nathan devised, and he runs in Missoula also, but it's international. The Center for Emotional Intelligence, is it?
Oh.
But it works. One of their fields is working specifically with children and in identifying feelings. And there's like feeling board games that have different facial expressions, and you point this out, or I feel this, and like books and charts and things specifically for kids to identify different feelings so they can put names to form. So I know I mentioned it in this book, and let me look real quick if I put it in the index or not, so I can see. No, I didn't. Oh, it's in there somewhere, but I have a section about empathic children who are highly empathic in this book. And I'm not a father. I have no paternal instinct. So, but I gathered information from research to kind of help with that. And then the Center for Emotional Intelligence. I defer anybody.
Yeah. Well, it is very much the tool for adults as well, which is just sit in it, right? Where maybe we're telling an adult to sit in it and identify, is it yours or not? And with the child, we're just saying, sit in it. It's not the end of the world. Like, you're going to get through it, because kids will recover much faster, right? Than an adult usually will, right? Adults catastrophize more than kids do. Kids don't have the stick-to-itiveness to keep that idea going past 5 minutes. They're just not going to.
That's that word I was looking for earlier, catastrophizing. If someone catastrophizes, yeah, that can be a challenging thing.
It's
but I think it's just as challenging as the opposite of that, which is everything's amazing and love and light and rainbows and unicorns.
Well, that's why you get gullible, because I went through that. So here's a little something that my viewers don't actually know. So when I was well, I still am, but as I recover from and heal from a health situation, I was thrown into like just awakening all at once, right? And so when that happened, at the same time as that happened, and I had met up with the coven and I was learning, like came in with zero understanding, even though I was raised by a high priestess. It is no different than you hear people talk about being raised by a pastor, and they're like, oh, I could have cared less. I didn't want to hear it. Like I had a real aversion to all things magical because the programming I received growing up that was BS. That was not true. It was all the programming of you have no control over you. You have to be part of the masses and that thinking. And my mom being an Aquarius and a high priestess, my grandmother being a high priestess, like they were just like, they knew they weren't going to even argue with me. Like I would find my way eventually back. And I did, but it came through something very traumatic. And I guess all of that to say, as I lost myself again, talking about like the overwhelm and the emotions of it all is like learning to sit in the discomfort of it and figure out what to do with that energy. And I think when you're younger, you know, you don't really have the words to identify or even, I don't know, I just find it very overwhelming. And I think that um there's so much energy in this room. I'm trying to stay focused, but like as I talk about all these spirit guides, I'm feeling them come in. And I'm like,
Mhm.
let me hold on to my grounding devices. Um, but yes, I think that it is important that we do teach our children to kind of identify what the emotions are and know that, you know, nothing's going to end as a result of this. Like you can stay strong and get through it. And that way you don't like seclude either. So
Yeah, so true.
let's see. Oh, this is the good one. How do you deal with people who show little or no empathy?
I try not to deal with them.
That was what I was thinking. I'm like, I
Yeah,
don't.
yeah.
I don't. They're on
Um,
the lower vibrational scale. They don't even show up anymore around
but
me.
but if you have to deal with them, like in a workplace or something like that,
Oh, that's
um,
true.
the best thing is to um, give to do something that's a technique used when approaching narcissistic people with narcissistic personality disorder, which is called gray walling. G
Yeah.
R
Gray
A
walling, gray
gray
rock,
walling
all of that. It's the
or gray
best.
wall,
Gray
gray
rock.
rock and gray
Yeah.
wall. Yeah, whatever it's called. One of those two. I haven't researched that too deeply, um, but yeah, basically not giving an emotional response because they're looking for an emotional response because then they gain the upper hand and higher power in the situation. So if you're just very fact based and yes this, no thank you, and kind of like a robot, and take out the emotion, that's how you interact with those people if you have to.
Yeah, I agree with that because there is something, you thoughts become things and you bring about what you think about. So I that's how I manage some difficult energies when they come in my face. You know, I'm like, okay, what I'm gonna do here is just like in my mind's eye, you know, just create like a wall almost, and then I'm just not gonna give it energy. And they actually get bored. They really do.
Yeah,
Like they're not gonna
yeah.
keep coming back and feeding off of it. Um, because they like there's something about that energy needing your vital life force to live off of to begin with. So if you're not feeding it, it's going, you know, it's like a kid with a tantrum, actually.
Yeah, and it is a form of vampirism. So we don't want to become prey if we're not.
That's
Like,
exactly right. Because it's so easy. It's so easy. It's so easy. You want to help, you want to see the best in people. You think that, and especially when in the beginning, you think that when someone's coming to you, you think, oh, they must really want my help. You know, they must really
right, right.
value what, and it's such,
So
it's
true. Yeah.
it's such shit, right? It's not about that
Yeah.
at all. What ends up happening is they're like, oh, this is someone who's going to see what I see in myself, you know, the amazingness. And they put me on this pedestal. And,
Mhm.
you know, I feel that that goes along with being an unhealed empath, you know, because at some point you do have something inside you that says, oh, I don't know if this is wonderful. What am I getting out of it? And, you know, then you learn that quite frankly, not much, right?
So true.
It
Yeah.
becomes exhausting. It becomes exhausting.
Yeah.
Let's see. How do you deal with people who criticize your need for alone time every now and again? Or like even this is another one that plays with this, like when people are not maybe respecting or understanding the and call it what you will. This could be if you're neurodivergent, empathy, just overwhelmed to stimulation, which that's another thing. I feel like that's part of the spectrum. I feel like anything from extreme autism to extreme empathy, you are just on another level. Like you're opened up in a way to experience emotions differently than the collective, right?
Mhm.
And I think that just puts you in, it's all about having a different lens. So as a person who learns to express your need and your boundaries, how do you deal with people that mock it or don't understand it?
I've actually never had to deal with that before, which I'm very grateful for. So I would just say that it takes explaining to the person having an issue with it in a language they can understand and using their kinds of words or understanding, like, okay, how can they relate or empathize when or sometimes when they might have needed to take space. Um, and just figuring out which words to use, how to explain it in a way they'll understand or can attempt to understand.
That's a very empathic thing to say, right? Well, how can we make them more comfortable? That's
Yeah.
so, yeah. I don't know. I think that my own experience, and probably the Scorpio in me as well, that when people don't understand my need for downtime, it might be because I didn't even express it. I just ghosted them.
Right.
Scorpios are that way, right? Like we'll just be like, yeah, it's my time to just check out. And so I think that it is a good idea, right?
Right.
Go into the darkness. I do think it's a good idea to remember that the people outside of us again are still part of who we actually are and what we express. So clear boundaries and communication, just saying like, hey, this is overwhelming. And just that's it. I think most people can understand overwhelm. They might not
Right.
agree
Yeah, that's a
that you
good point.
should be overwhelmed, but that's their business.
Right.
That's
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Overwhelmed. That's a great word for it. Yeah.
yeah, I think so. Um, how do you see the spectrum of sensitivity?
Well, not everybody who's a highly sensitive person is an empath, but every empath is a highly sensitive person. So I've met some folks who are very highly sensitive, but they're assholes. I'm like,
So what does that look like? I haven't come across, well, maybe I have. I don't know. Tell me more. What does that look like?
a lot of self concern instead of concern for others, and just like total self absorption and super sensitivity. I'm so sensitive, and and I'm victimized because of this and this and this is going on, and uh, this is painful, and this person did this to me, and they didn't even know it, and that's kind of what it looks like. Instead of having that compassionate response that empathy requires, it becomes a self-absorbed kind of thing, and they might be, or somebody in that frequency might be very um, highly sensitive, but they're not highly empathic, very little empathic. Um, but that's not a permanent thing. Someone can shift out of that state with a bit more compassion to the self and then towards others, and just kind of learning techniques, taking responsibility to be an adult and do the work it takes, daily prayer, meditation, journaling, art, different things to conduct that energy. So it's not like boom, 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 boom. Um, and so we can do the work and get to a more empathetic state than self-absorbed. But
Yeah.
we need a little of that too from time to time.
Yeah, because
That
that's
says the
self
Leo. Yeah.
right. That self-absorption can lead to and manifest into different medical issues, in my opinion, and
Well,
so I think it is super important to always express what you need, even if it's going to be met with confusion by another. Like, they don't need to understand. Like, I don't think that's the point of it all, right? Like, you don't have to convince someone else of why you need what you need, or what it is. Like, there's no convincing. It's just stating what you need and then executing on that need. And then whatever someone else decides to interpret, intuit, divine, whatever, opine, like, that's their business.
Mhm.
And it's just going to have to stay with them. They can transmute it.
So true, huh?
Yeah. I mean, what else are you supposed to do?
Yeah.
Well, Raven, I would like to know, let's see, Annie, were there any other questions that came up in the chat? I'm trying to see.
Not at this time, Stasi.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. It was like she said, the voice from above.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah. There
Oh
she
my
is.
gosh, this has been amazing. So before we wrap things up, tell us a little bit about what's coming up for you. Let's bring it home. What's coming up for you? Where are you going? Tell us about this class tonight. Are you single? People want to know what's going on. We're going to plug it all.
Yep. Single, looking, well, not actively looking for my guy, but it'll
Look,
happen
I've got
eventually.
Stasi singles. Listen, we're going to find you a companion. The astrology is right for you.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'm open to it. I'm not actively seeking that, but I'm open to it.
Okay. Ever hear that, everyone? All right.
Now that I've been doing a lot of self work the last few years, especially. So, yep, I'm just in Montana with my cat now, working on 3 forthcoming book projects. I can't talk about, I guess, 4 forthcoming book projects. I can't talk about 3 of them yet.
Oh,
But one is fiction, though. That's going to be totally a new thing. It's all I can say so far is that it's a fiction project. But then the one that's all contracted and is online now and ready for pre-order is a Gothic Witches Oracle deck. And that's at ravendigitalis.com. You can check out the description there, but it can be pre-ordered now on Amazon or at crosscrowbooks.com.
And you have an Amazon storefront, right?
I don't sell from it, but I've got an author profile on there.
So we're
I don't sell on Amazon. Yeah.
Well, you can go to my Amazon storefront and you can buy it if you want.
Okay, sweet.
So we'll figure it out.
I do sell signed books privately when I have enough copies, so anyone can just find me on social medias at Raven Digitalis, one word, or ravendigitalis@gmail.com. Message me and be like, hey, how much for this book? And I don't charge extra for autographs or whatever, just shipping plus the book. And then what else is coming up? I'm going to check out the Pacific Northwest in May for a possible relocation spot, because that's where everything is soon to be getting drawn. And I'm going to consult you, Stasi, during our session about that, about moving and when and where and what looks right. And, but we'll feel it out a little bit. So thank you so much for that session coming on.
I'm excited. I'm already getting the more you open up, the more it's coming. So this is going to be
great.
I feel some really good stuff coming for you, to be honest.
Awesome.
Yeah, truly.
Yes, Annie, thanks. Center for Emotional Education. That's right. Is my friend's one. Yeah, someone in Washington. Great. Well, I'll be in Tacoma and Seattle area primarily, and driving around to Olympia with my friends in like a couple other areas over there. So it went away, but whoever just said that they're in Washington, if you want to email me or find me on socials, you can.
Oh yes, that's a
let me know.
Yes. Okay. Yes, and so and again, everybody, this will be posted for members to access, and we'll probably post this at some point for the general population.
Yes,
but,
yes, please do.
Yes, I would love this. This has gone really well. Now, if someone's looking, for example, for 2 things, because that would be that someone. So if you're looking for a reading, right? I know that it's on your website. Tell us a little bit more, and tell us a bit more about, because I'm looking to see if I have it right here, but I don't. My Toff deck is not right here.
Okay.
So tell me a little bit more about that deck, what drew you to it, how you learned it, and do you teach it? Let's go.
Nope, I don't teach tarot.
You want to teach that particular deck? No.
maybe maybe event, I don't know what's going to happen 20 years
Now
down the
I've
line.
implanted
We'll
the
see.
seed.
Yeah, thanks.
You're welcome. Something else
Thanks
for
for
you to do. Oh, you're welcome.
yeah, more stuff to do. That's okay. We'll see. Yeah, so readings are about 45 minutes to an hour, and I do a sliding scale. And I do, I average about a few a week, and I do those on Zoom, on FaceTime, Skype, regular phone calls, sometimes even email. And I'll be soon offering a schedule online like you do, like a scheduler. So I'm working next month with a new webmaster for helping integrate that into my website. But for now, just folks can message me and we set it up that way. And what drew me to those cards originally? Well, I was working with an oracle deck way back when, and then I don't even remember how I came across the 12th deck, but we aligned, and I was like, okay. And
When he
I'm
comes
just like
to
a
you, it's
purist. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's oh, I remember now what I started to try to tell you when I was like coming like in my mind's eye, because I was trying to say that when I was going through the traumatic experiences of my healing journey, it was very much what I was just about to say with Toth. It's like when the god or goddess, when deity comes to you and you haven't been the one to open that door, right? Like you didn't go seeking it out. That can be a real awakening experience. So I had been working with the coven, and when I was healing, and one of the dedicants had brought in 3 different Kuan Yin statues for me, right? That her recently deceased brother had in his place. So now I'm a medium. This comes to me, from someone else and all this stuff. Well, let me just tell you, I didn't know any different. I didn't know who Kuan Yin was. I didn't understand. I took that energy and I was like, oh, she looks so compassionate and kind. And then I just started working with her, like innocently, gullible, right? I was like, oh, Kuan Yin, if you could help me with this transition and so that my healing journey takes place. And I had no idea what was going on. And then all of the sudden, I couldn't eat meat. Okay. I couldn't watch anything that was too risque, and we'll leave it at that. I couldn't do anything that was too risque. I couldn't drink anymore. And I had no idea what was going on, right? Like things that were like just the idea of meat repulsed me. And my girlfriend said, have you looked into Kuan Yin? Because you're working with her, and I think you're starting to embody her more than you realize. And I did some research and I was like, damn, like I literally
Exactly
became
right.
this. And so it's that type of like, I call them like crooked broomstick moments that you learn as a practitioner, especially if you're solo or you're just starting. So I found it really interesting that you work with that deck, because that's how I came across the deck. The coven I worked with Toth, and and so just being in that energy while still not understanding the energy, it started to come to me. So I was like, oh, I'll get this deck. No, that deck is really intense. How long did it take you to like I got it out, and like I would pull like one card a month, right? And I'd be like, whoa, they don't play. It is not a warm and fuzzy. There's no warm and fuzzy.
No, it's a very realistic deck. There's some great happy cards in it too. There's also the really dark cards, but they all play in tandem when they're spread out. The dark one is tempered by this light one, and so on. And some readings I've gotten almost all really challenging cards, and then others I get none at all, and they're all very positive, uplifting, and they all seem to be accurate and aligned with what that person's going through. So it's really reassuring that way. But yeah, you're right. When you tap into a frequency, and which is also called an egregore, EGREGORE, egregore is where deities are, or even like this has an egregore. The 12th deck has an egregore with an E, Annie. Yep, it begins with an E. Yeah, and egregore, and so the deities are there, and it's like you tap into this overarching energy. So when I pray to Lord Ganesha, I'm for Shiva or Shakti or whatever, I'm tapping into their egregores, their astral imprints.
Is that
And
what you would call a thought form? Is that very similar to the idea of a thought
yeah,
form?
very similar. Yeah. And so like with Kuan Yin, yeah, you're going to start tapping in with your experience, tapping into all these things you didn't know about are part of that energy. Aligning with that. That's why we have to really research. Yeah.
Yeah, I learned the hard way.
See what we're signing up for. Yeah.
The high priestess that I was working with at the time was like, yeah, so I get that they're going to come to you because you're like this light. She's like, but you might want to crack a book. And I'm like, oh, and I just, in my mind, I was like, no, it wouldn't come my way if I didn't need it. No, yeah. Well, since then, a lot of things come my way and that I don't need.
Yeah, first they come and then you do the homework. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh gosh. I feel like as far as witches go, I'm probably like I'm the one that failed God and Goddess school. Like I didn't go to deity class. Like I just I'm like, I don't know. I should do better.
But you have plenty of guides and angels, so
Well, thank
maybe
you.
that's your greatest frequency to work with, more than the deities. I mean,
Yes, that's
still
what
very
I'm
important.
that's yes, that's my I like that story. I'm gonna stick to it. I work with a frequency that's just not up there.
Mhm.
Oh, all right. So let's see. So we have you. Oh, tell me a little bit about what are you doing tonight? What class and how can people log on? Can we find you? Is it too late?
Um, yeah, when folks are watching this rebroadcast, it'll be too late. But
Oh, that's
for
true.
those live now, yeah, it's WitchCon, WITCHCON.com, and there are 90 something different classes. And excuse me, and that's going on right now as we speak. Started last night, and everything is rewindable, and you can skip back to watch any classes.
Oh, so then
90,
people later can find it. They can go
yeah,
back and sign. So it's going to be like a Zoom recording of different classes instead of an in-person
yeah, it's on a
conference.
platform. It's on a platform called Crowdcast, and
Okay.
so you just register, hop on, and then you can just view videos, and because they happen simultaneously, like three at a
Oh,
time,
oh,
every 2 hours, like three at a time, and mine's the very last one, and it happens at the same time as the beautiful Rachel True, the star of The Craft, one of the stars of the movie The Craft. She's doing a class on tarot at the same time that I'm doing my empathy and shadow magic class. So she's probably going to get most of the viewers, which is cool, but and understandable. I'm going to go. Oh, thanks. Best for last. Yeah, I mean, no. I have a lot of friends there, and we're all really good in our field, I think. But you can, yeah, I'm going to go back and watch Rachel True's and my friends' ones that I'm missing
so is that something you have to
later.
register for or get
Yeah,
tickets
you have to
for?
register. Yeah.
Okay, so everyone can head over to that website. Thank you, Annie, for posting that. And I guess no matter when you're watching it, you should be able to at least go back and watch.
Yeah, and the replays stay archived. Yep.
That's exciting.
It's really nice. Yeah.
All right, and then any other things that you can talk about? Any plans to travel physically?
Just Pacific Northwest, and then some hot springs here with some friends, and isolating, but not as much as I have done for the last 6 or 8 months. But so slowly getting out of my shell a little bit here and there.
Yeah, with the eclipse energy coming up, I feel like within the next couple of weeks, we're going to finally start to feel a little bit more like of the creative flow going,
Mhm.
And I think that we're going to be entering into a time of like collaborating. So I feel like people are going to be pulled out of their comfort zones, which is exciting.
Yeah, good.
So
Good.
we'll see how it
Yeah.
goes. Well, I want to thank you so much for
Well, thanks.
spending your time with us today. That was really kind of you to do this, and I have really, really enjoyed speaking with you and getting to know you.
Yeah,
And
you too.
thank you. And I'm sure that we're going to get some feedback. So thank you guys so much, everyone who participated today. Please, please, please remember that we are all just stars from the sky with feet on the ground, doing the best we can with the information that we have. So be kind to yourselves and each other. And remember, if you speak only your truth, you will heal worlds with your words. So may the magic that we weave and the words that we speak bring healing to all those who seek. And until next time, shine brightly, everyone. And thank you so much for spending your time here with me today. Bye, Raven. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, everyone. Had a great time. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Blessed be.